Welcome to Soul Therapy with Chelle. I am Chelle Griffin and I practice as a soul doula. I combine therapeutic knowledge and lived experience with a healthy dose of spiritual exploration. Feel welcome to join me as we learn and grow together, exploring the magic and wonderment of experiencing life on earth as a spiritual being. Welcome back to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Hello, my beautiful listeners. Today is going to be such a treat for you. I've got this lovely little bubbly, happy sensation in my belly. A little bit nervous, I'm noticing, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a combination of excitement to share this gorgeous book with you. I don't normally talk about books on the pod, but this one felt incredibly fitting for the pod today. It's called The Art of Forgiveness, and we're here with Rachael Coopes. Welcome, Rachael. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a delight. Now, going through your bio, we have quite the history. You have a 20-year career in the performing arts, in film, television and theatre in Australia and the UK and the US. You're probably very well known for your role on Play School for all the beautiful little toddlers out there. And you've also performed on shows such as All Saints and McLeod's Daughters. And I've also noted that this is your third book. Your other books, where have I got that? Find Your Strength, Paris for Forgiveness, and then here, beautiful number 3, The Art of Forgiveness. And what a treat this book is. It's not preachy. It's not a step-by-step guide on how to forgive. That is such a personal journey that each of us gets to do at our own pace, in our own time. But this book is for those that are suffering from anger, bitterness or regret, or simply yearning to live a calmer and more connected life. Rachael goes through this book and explores forgiveness through a huge range of philosophers, and from the Stoics to Zen Buddhism. And through her research and sharing, she explores how to properly let go. And that's through my favourite way of learning, with storytelling. I really loved hearing just the snippets of the different people that you had conversations with and relayed those conversations and their own journey with forgiveness and all that forgiveness encompasses: regret, imperfections, oh gosh, so many. So you combine personal stories and advice mixed with solid expert-based research, anecdotal evidence and case studies to produce this beautiful, compassionate guide that is underpinned by sensible philosophies to help us live a calmer and happier life. And you have done just that, Rachael. It's beautiful. I have been working through this book. By working, I mean in the most gentle way. Each chapter has like an offering at the end of a way to journal or explore, ruminate, but then also a practical tool in the form of it could be breath work or meditation or movement, an invitation to just go deeper within and explore that particular chapter. I guess some of these books that I am an avid reader and I love particularly self-help books. I'm considering my background as a Gestalt therapist, but I really enjoyed this one in particular because it is a journey. I would recommend starting at the beginning and just meandering through at your own pace and going into that deeper exploration, because each step is, I liken it to going up a staircase, just getting closer to yourself, or maybe a staircase going within your heart. You're descending this staircase into a deeper form of yourself. What was this experience for you to write? How long did it take you to write The Art of Forgiveness?
So I like the staircase metaphor. It definitely felt like that when I first embarked on writing it. I'd written an article during lockdown in the pandemic just around forgiveness and mindfulness and yoga practices. And in that exploration, I realized there was a lot more I could go deep down the rabbit hole into. So when I had the opportunity to explore it as a third book, I did think I'd lean on mindfulness practices, lean on the etymology, explore a little more mythology, Stoicism, which I hadn't spent a lot of time with reading about. I'd had a little bit of a dive into it, reading Ryan, I've forgotten his last name, Ryan's books. He's an American author. I've got one behind me. Where is it? Holiday. Beautiful Ryan Holiday. Okay. I love his writing and I love his books, but I hadn't really gone deeply into it. So that was the idea, was, all right, I'll have a look at some of that world that I'm pretty steeped in already and go into some of the areas that I'm not as steeped in. Because for me, it's always about learning. The process has to have some kind of learning for me. And I think I love this staircase idea too, because I feel like it's not till I finish the books and maybe then a year after that the learning really comes. And I'm like, oh, that's why I wrote the book, or I understand something from the book. So yeah, it began with that process of, okay, I think I'll write this little 30,000 word exploration, really leaning on the world of mindfulness and a little bit of mythology and etymology. But in the process of doing that and talking to people about the fact that I was writing the book, I started to have conversations. And it was those conversations that really opened up the complexities and also the vastness in a very liberated way of how it could be viewed. And so I never intended to interview people. I did intend to integrate stories, some of my own and some stories that I knew. I never envisaged interviewing 25 people in the end, and I could have kept going, but I had to reel it in because it was getting bigger and bigger anyway. And I also felt like I was so deep in it for a period of time. And like everything, you can always go on forever. So the good thing about having a deadline was I sort of had to then muck my way through it. And that structure that you talk about was not planned. It was not intended. I had to sort through everything, and several times I changed it around. But the structure that you see is pretty much the structure from when I first started getting it down, because it's almost in the order of how I spoke to people as well. And in fact, at the Adam Goodes interview is in the last chapter, and he was one of the last people I spoke to. And it really did bring all of the threads together for me, which I didn't intend. I didn't know how I was going to finish the book. I really felt a little bit lost as to how I was going to wrap it up, because as you know from reading it, it's like I say at the beginning, there's no real answer to the question, what is forgiveness, or how do you forgive? Just as there's no real answer to the question, what is love and how do you love? And so it was very much one of those processes that really I had to get out of the way a lot of the time, but at the same time stay really disciplined in trying to wrangle it, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
But it was just that thing of trusting that all the stuff that was coming in, and there were people that I wanted to speak to and I didn't. There were people who were going to talk to me and change their mind when it got closer to the time, or just said, I know it may appear that I have forgiven, but I haven't. I'm a fraud. Or actually, I don't know what I can contribute. So I think the voices that ended up in the book were so perfect, and they were exactly what was needed for this iteration and this incarnation of what I was exploring. But that, I love that you use the word gentle, and I had a friend the other day say she felt like she was going for a walk with someone. That's how she described reading it. And I guess that's the thing with the staircase, is that I did hope it felt like just going like a companion, rather than laying it out and saying this is what forgiveness is and this is my understanding of it now. And I'm probably in the same place that you are in many ways after reading it. And I love that you said to me, I'm a little bit lost for words. I feel like that when I have to talk about it sometimes. I feel like I should be after spending so much time with it, and in answer to your question, how long did it take? I was thinking about it for years because it was quite a few years ago that I first thought about writing the article, but I wrote it very quickly. In a few months last year, it was very compressed. And I did a lot of research, had a lot of conversations, and really was thinking about it 24/7 for a couple of years. And so, yeah, I feel in some ways like I should be some kind of expert, and I'm not. Still sitting with all of it. And every time I have a conversation about it or a Q&A or I'm on a panel or a podcast, I learn something else. And I love that. And someone said to me the other day, why do you write books? Like, what's the deal? What's the intention? Is it to help your media profile? Is it to make money? Because I hear you can't make money, blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's the things that I want to talk about for the rest of my life, and certainly for a couple of years. So it is, you have to really be curious, I think, in order to go down these little rabbit holes. And then the beauty is that for me, it goes on forever, and I'm consistently learning.
And there's that old saying, like, write what you know, write what you're curious about, what you want to know. And you have packaged that up in it is, as you're sharing, I could just see that this book evolved, and books around grief came to mind, like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and the stages of grief. And I feel like there's a similarity in the art of forgiveness, that there isn't this linear process that we go through to reach a state of forgiveness. And we learn in the book there's states beyond forgiveness. That was new for me. I'm not going to share that because we don't want to do spoilers here, but that was mind-blowing for me, going, oh my God, yes. Wow. Like, okay, there's been some events in my life that I thought I had reached that state of forgiveness, and I have, but not the next phase. I went, okay, right, there's work to be done there, and curiosity to lean into exploring that further. And when you shared that there were people who were lined up to be interviewed, and then had their own realization that I feel like a fraud. I'm an imposter in this space. I can't sit with you. What a gift for them to go off and do their own work and explore their own relationship with forgiveness around that as well. And that's before the book even came out. So I love this ripple effect that it's having, and I love that you've shown up with this genuine curiosity just to learn more for yourself and to share that with others. There were so many nuggets throughout this book. Like, I just have this list of quotes after quotes. And at the beginning, my very first question was, if you did have access to a DeLorean, what moment would you return to? But further in the book, I got to regret, and I'm like, no, she's already answered it for me. The experience, the regret, sort of evolves to become the blessing and the gift of the lesson. And that's one thing that when I work with my grieving clients and trauma clients, that we reach that place of, yes, this happened to you in the past, but all these other things along the way couldn't have happened if you hadn't have gone through that experience. You could not have evolved into the person you are today. And that is a very slow, not so gentle process, but it's one that only they can experience, that we can experience, that our being able to look back at our own traumas going, oh wow, I'm actually really grateful that happened, because I wouldn't be here where I am today without that experience. There was one particular line I really felt drawn to, and it's one we do hear often in many different ways. Not forgiving others isn't punishing them, it's making us sick. And that's just such a powerful line. So simple, so clear, but it gives us so much food for thought. How did that come about in your own personal experience of forgiveness leading into this book?
Yeah, so I mean, it was unsurprising to me when I looked at the neuroscience and you look at the research and the data, and it's the jury is out. You can't put yourself. Rumination creates that stress response. And even though the tiger is no longer there chasing you, tiger may have been long gone, exactly the same response happens when we ruminate. So all the same chemicals. And every time we do that, the immune system gets shut down because it has to. When we're in fight or flight, the body needs all of its resources to focus on running. And so you don't need to worry about the immune system in that moment. It's really as simple as that. I mean, you can go into detail around the chemicals and what, which parts of the brain, the limbic system and the amygdala hijack. And I think a lot of people now have heard, at least anyone who's gone to, yoga class or looked at the stress response. Most of us have a bit of a sense of like, yeah, I get that it's not great to be in fight or flight for a long time. But when you have the personal experience, I think that's when you really wake up. And for me, it was a few years in to being a single parent, and my son had reflux as well. And I was working, we were on the road touring with Play School from 4.5 months old. So I would get to arrive in hotels and put towels down on the hotel room floor because I was constantly having to, clean up vomit in hotels. I'd ask for extra towels in these motels, and then I'd put down the towels, and we'd get back from the shows, and I would, by the time I did everything and then make sure that, my son was taken care of, it would then be the point. And this is before Uber Eats. Right. So, because this is a good 12 years ago now. And there was one night early on when I realized I hadn't got any food and it was too late. It was in Canberra and nothing was available. It was 8 o'clock at night or whatever. And I'm like, how can I not get a pizza or something? And Alex Paps, who I was touring with, went down into the car park, and I couldn't even leave my room to go to the vending machine, because you suddenly realize, oh, wow, I'm single mum with a baby who you can't So he went and got chips and chocolate out of the vending machine in the car park for me. God bless him. But so I kind of had been in that state for a couple of years and slept maybe 45 minutes at a time for a long time. And it was actually my doctor who said I had chronic fatigue, and his perspective was, if you don't stop for 3 months and sort yourself out, like a minimum of 3 months, like really stop, you're going to end up with something way worse. But all my blood results were it was behaving like I was constantly really, really, really sick. So it looked like I was a very sick person. I went to an immunologist and they're like, yeah, but there's no reason, there's nothing that we can identify. I was just exhausted. And those couple of months, I was forced to take those few months. And those couple of months were really the beginning of my healing in a lot of ways. I'm just thinking of that because you've asked that question in such a specific way, which was when I saw it affect my own health. And it was at the time, I think we all get like that. Like no one's in a position where they can stop for 3 months and after themselves. But if I hadn't done that, I wonder where I would have been in another 6 months. So for me, it was definitely the stress response of being, and when I really look at it, it was not just survival of the working and the managing all those things. It was the frustration that I had ended up in that situation, the anger with myself, the resentment with myself that I had like made my own bed. I was so furious. So even that illness and that period, as hard as it was financially and everything else, was very valuable for me in waking up and just going, oh, you can't keep on like this. And I had to change what I was doing in order to start to work with that process. And I did. I started to do different things. And having said that, then there's been other moments, to your point about like you think you've done the work and you think you're good, and then you find yourself at another stage of life.
Yeah.
And you realize you're not. And I still have that. I go back to that place when we are unwell and when the wheels are falling off a bit in the middle of winter generally. And because everything is like it is for everyone. You know, I work hard and I'm juggling that time of life where we're working and parenting and all the things. And it's all this precarious, well-organized ship until something goes wrong. And then when someone gets sick or the wheels fall off, that's when I really unravel, because I just get and I go back to that place of having to do it myself and it's not what I signed up for and why me. And then inevitably that will manifest in, you know, me not being as nice to my son. And then I see that part of myself. And then mostly I'm quite good at catching myself pretty quickly and saying, I'm really sorry. I am tired and I am frustrated, but yeah, and then that wakes me up because I'm like, wow, I still have work to do around that. I still have to forgive myself. I still have to, and it's like washing the dishes. I love how, you know, Carla from Evolve says that in the book. It's like washing the dishes. I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I'm standing above everyone going, yes, I have forgiven everyone and I'm so holier than thou. It's going to be a constant journey for me, for sure.
I feel that stage will come after we leave these bodies that are our gift for this time on this beautiful planet. And then we can ruminate about that and get holier than thou. But for the time being, we are in these very human bodies that are flawed. We're here to experience the full spectrum of all that an earthly life offers. And I guess that comes down to that presence, which in the moment, catching ourselves, like you said, noticing when, okay, I've just snapped. Hang on, what does my body need right now? My nervous system's activated. I know I'm going into an old pattern that is familiar. How can I support myself through like breath or just even awareness? Half the time can just nip that mindset in the bud and reel ourselves back in, be accountable, apologize. Like apologizing is the art of apologizing. There's your next book. You could write a whole book on that. Loved how you really tapped into how the act of an apology can activate empathy in the receiver of the apology, and this beautiful co-created energy occurs between the two that allows their connection to deepen and transform into a new way of being together, that trust can be rebuilt, openness is established or re-established, and all from this simple act of being accountable, expressing remorse, regret, responsibility for our actions or words, and without that attachment that it has to be received. I think that there's beauty in that we can have regrets and be truly sorry for mistakes we've made in our life, but we can forgive ourselves for that without needing the forgiveness of the other, those that have been impacted. There's such rich learning in that. And that wraps up part one of our episode with Rachael Coopes discussing her book, The Art of Forgiveness. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode, and remember to stay tuned for part two coming out next week on your usual podcast platform. In the meantime, take care and go gently. Thank you for showing up for yourself by listening to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Feel welcome to subscribe to my podcast, share the pod with your friends, family, colleagues and neighbours, and please, if you are willing, I would absolutely love a 5-star review to give my little pod a boost in the algorithms. For further detail on how to work with me, please visit my website www.chellegriffin.com or find me on the socials. I hope you'll join me on my next episode. Till then, go gently and intentionally. With care, Chelle.